So where do you stop and pause in wondering awe? So it's a simple question. It's not that you give an answer, just for you to start the topic. Where do you stop and pause in wondering awe? Maybe it's a beautiful lake, like here somewhere in Sweden. Maybe it's in Amsterdam, the Grachten area, whatever. Perceptions. Yes. Perceptions of wondering awe are usually related to specific situations. For example, breathtaking landscapes, or like the sea, for example. Maybe some specific experience with music, dance, some persons, or whatever it is. The point is, the pausing element means time seems to stop, stand still for a moment. You're completely struck in the situation. You don't think about the clock because you're completely fixed. Maybe you feel connected to something, whatever the something is. Let's say it's an emotional, spiritual, or transcendent connection with the sacred. It's a touching experiences. Maybe you have some feelings of gratitude to life in general, to different people, maybe your teachers, your parents, or maybe being grateful to the newness, which you can't define. So this is a starting point for the topic of awe. Now switch to the yoga practitioners. Yoga teachers are assumed to follow a specific, let's say, spiritual lifestyle. Because of following this lifestyle, they change quality of life and mindfulness. The point of spiritual transformation, as we've had in the lecture before, is part of the story. Some of these awe experiences are tremendous, and some are simply, oh, that's wonderful. Nothing else changes. But some experiences are outstanding. Now looking at yoga practitioners, they have their lifestyles, their life set, and they're doing what they're doing, making some asanas, maybe they're meditating, or whatever they're doing. Even experienced yoga practitioners, eins weiter dazwischen liegen. Okay. Der da. Thank you. So even experienced yoga practitioners show some further improvement within 6 months of intensified yoga practice. We've seen strong effects for inner easiness, lightheartedness, and conscious presence or mindfulness. So the experience, and nevertheless, intensified practice changed some things. There are mild to moderate effects for conscious interaction with others, or even religious orientation, even if they said, I don't care for all this religious stuff, nevertheless, they have stronger interest in these religious issues, which is surprisingly. Let's say constant practice and training leads to some inner transformation. I wouldn't say it's a spiritual transformation, it's some kind of transformation. They are different, but they're changing. So this connects to the talk before. Several of them follow the ethical principles which are handed down in the Patanjali Sutra, which is a yoga story. The conventional yoga practitioners, they are doing some physical exercises. Let's say it's gymnastics. But a large group of them are practicing deeper with a background, with a philosophical background. This is the core principles, the yamas, the niyamas. Yama means relation to the external world. Of course, I avoid killing. I don't kill persons. It's unpolite. It also means I'm living as a vegetarian because harming animals, it's the topic of non-killing. Truthfulness is an important issue, non-stealing. You all know the tricks that sometimes you steal time of others and so on. This is the same topic, not only stealing laptops or whatever it is. Non-possessiveness is also a topic, and restraint, avoidance of sexual misconduct. On the other side, the niyamas means relation to the internal world. The topic is aesthetic, self-discipline in life, contentment, modesty, purity, clearness, self-reflection or self-study. And the more concrete or more religious issue is devotion to a higher power or surrender. So these are the ethical principles of yoga practitioners. Our study aimed to analyze feelings of awe in yoga practitioners with respect to the conceptions of yoga, whether they see yoga as a physical activity only, or a conscious lifestyle, or a spiritual path of development, or the ethical principles, the yamas and niyamas, or indicators of quality of life, well-being, mindfulness, inner congruence, compassion, longing for the sacred, and so on. We made a cross-sectional study with 800 whatsoever yoga practitioners, as mostly they're women. Only a few are male teachers. The others are the simple practitioners. We used standardized instruments. You can see them here. What is this niyama questionnaire? It measures in 4 dimensions. First, devotion, self-reflection, contentment. It's the niyama part. And the others are mostly related to the external world. These are the yama parts. So these things can be measured. Here are the findings. In most cases, yoga practitioners scored very high on the perception of awe and gratitude compared to a reference sample. You can see the differences. The reference sample are normal persons from about 5,000 people with different professions and so on. But they are quite similar as compared to religious brothers and sisters. So the similarity is both have a specific lifestyle, both have a specific religious or spiritual practice. So in yoga practitioners, they score higher when they're female. The women are in most cases scoring higher on awe. The more frequent they study the philosophical backgrounds, the higher the awe experience. And the stricter the vegetarian lifestyle, the more they perceive awe. So now the interpretations. In most cases, the practitioners interpret yoga, as you see on the upper right side, as a conscious way of living, or as a spiritual path of development. Physical exercises, as you can see here, only some see the yoga practice as simple physical activity or as a hobby. So it's very clear yoga is a specific lifestyle. Now look on the left side of the columns. Physical exercises. No, the point is the interpretation of yoga, as they say yes, undecided or no. The more blue the color, the stronger they say yes. You see awe is expressed similar whether you see your activity of yoga practice as gymnastics or physical activity or not. The differences are over there when you see yoga as your spiritual path or conscious lifestyle. When you say yoga is not a spiritual path or not a conscious lifestyle, then awe and gratitude are very low, as you can see here. What about longing for God or the sacred? Several of them don't believe in the God concepts, but never said there is something sacred in my life and this is my reference value. So whether I term it the sacred or God, it could be the same for different people. As you can see here, 48% said yes, I'm longing for the sacred or God in my life. Below you can see the reference sample from young adults as we've seen before. The younger generation don't care about all the religious stuff or the spiritual stuff. They said, I'm not longing for God, only 21%. Adventists, as a positive sample, 73% said, yes, I'm longing for God. So you see, this is a positive reference sample, and the negative reference sample, the younger ones. So longing for God in yoga practitioners, there are no differences for gender and age. But of course, longing for God or the sacred is much higher when they refer to a Hindu or Buddhism background and their life as orientation, when they have a lot of meditation approaches in their practice, when they're studying the philosophical background, and when they see yoga as a spiritual path or as a lifestyle, as a conscious way of living. So the circle is closing a little bit. Now looking at the details. This is a correlation analysis. The more yellow, the stronger the association is. Awe and gratitude is related to mindfulness or situational awareness, to well-being or life satisfaction, less to emotional exhaustion. This is only a weak negative association. Spiritual dryness is a form of, let's say, spiritual crisis and related to the sacred or related to God, which is moderately associated, but negatively. So the higher your experience of awe, the lower is this experience, the sacred is not responding to me, and so on. Compassion is related to awe. And now, on the lower parts, the contentment, self-reflection, devotion is moderately related. Also truthfulness, restraint, and self-discipline. The others are only weakly related, with the exception of inner congruence. So it means my yoga practice is so deeply touching me that I'm completely in the practice. I don't care for the world around. Now I'm in this situation. This is a matter of mindfulness. So this is related to awe. It means, as I've said, stopping and pausing and wondering. It means I'm completely struck and I'm in the situation. It's a topic of mindfulness. So we run some regression analysis. What are the best predictors for these experiences of awe and gratitude? As you can see here, highlighted a little bit in blue, the best predictors are compassion and situational awareness, mindfulness, and not being male. Further, the niyama factor, contentment, devotion, surrender, also well-being. The better your well-being, the better is the chance that you say, yes, I experience this. When you're depressed and lonely, you have lower chances to stop in specific situations. Deep longing for God is also relevant. I don't know why. Sorry, this one is not connected. It's not connected to. Oh. Okay, I have a problem later on. I will solve it later on. It's here. It's too far away. No, we'll take it off. Okay, someone will help me that my power supply will. But anyway, the last slides are coming, so it's no big issue. Thank you. It's okay.
It's done. We're done.
So I come to the conclusions. Awe and gratitude is experienced more often by yoga practitioners than by a reference sample, but similar as compared to religious brothers and sisters. I suppose it's a matter of lifestyle, as we've seen there. Contentment, self-reflection, devotion, this is the niyama part of the ethical principles, referring to the internal world, my own behaviors in the world, has a clear spiritual connotation and is a relevant predictor of awe perception. Required is well-being and inner congruence with the practices. It's the same is true for your praying life. When you're doing your prayer because it's a ritual, you're not with your heart in the prayers. When you say, now it's essential for me because I'm deeply in my prayers, it's part of my lifestyle, then praying is different. So for most yoga practitioners, it's a conscious spiritual way of living related to different behavior. It means transformation. I change my behaviors to the world. I try to be more compassionate, to be more mindfulness in my actions and so on. Yoga practices may change the lifestyle and can lead to a more conscious behavior or lifestyle. It means to sensitize, to perceive the sacred in my daily activities. Wherever I am, I have the chance to be touched by the sacred. For religious people, we can refer to the book of John, where it said, what about the word? The word created everything, and the word is still in everything, and we can find God in everything. It's the same idea, being touched by the sacred, whatever you find, what is sacred in your life. And this is the point where I would like to redefine the topic of spirituality. As we've seen in the lecture before, it's a matter of transformation. Spirituality may not mean I'm happy with God on my side and we're happy and we don't care for the world. Spirituality means I'm touched by something because I've perceived the sacred in my life. And because of this, I changed my attitudes, behavior. I see a responsibility to care for the world because God has created the world in its entire different aspects. Maybe people try to become role models in terms of leadership and support others. or it refers to holistic ecology. I care for my fellow men and for the environment. It needs to be protected. This is the idea of spirituality as a process of transformation. It will not stop with me and God alone. Again, the question for you, for today in your life, in our life, where do we stop and pause in wondering awe? When you go through Amsterdam, where do you stop and say, wow, it's beautiful, it's touching me? Wherever you are, you're invited to say, wow, it's beautiful, or whatever it is. So thanks for listening. Someone is...
Yes, I have a question. Why did you choose yoga practitioners for your research?
The point is, I started with religious brothers and sisters. Religious brothers and sisters living as nuns, monks, and so on in monasteries.
Yeah.
That's where I started. And the same pictures can be found in this group. We said, okay, let's go to groups with a specific lifestyle.
Yeah.
I next analyzed the Adventists because they have a very strict way of living. The picture is quite similar. We said, okay, let's go to a group which is termed as non-God believers, but they have some other beliefs, and they have a very clear way of life, and I find the same picture. And then I have a normal group, a normal reference group of young people, for example, those who voluntarily care for others in needs. Also go to Medical Sans Frontières. Well, I hope you know what I mean. It's French language, sorry. They don't believe in God in most cases. They have a humanistic approach, but the pattern is similar. They are touched by something. The motive of gratitude is very high in them, and compassion is very high in them, and awe is also high in them. So the principal components can be found in different groups who are caring for the world.
Yeah, it is a part of bigger research purpose.
Exactly. And so the point is that spirituality could be a little bit bigger than we expected.
Yeah.
Because
conscious lifestyle with very outspoken principles.
Yes. Yeah. Because you need some guidelines. What gives my life direction? Maybe hope and orientation. When we're lacking this, we're just praying meditation without a clear direction. It's simply a ritual.
Yeah.
This is the point which is similar in all these different groups.
Yes, in my research, I examine if compassion, self-compassion can be cultivated as a competence. And me, I'm a psychologist right now. It's a sort of method to free one person from whatever blocks them or imprisons them. But in this first research, Harvest really liked it to be very pure. So to not combine it with sort of yoga or something like that, or also not a sort of sense of Buddhism, or because to make it pure also for the research. So I look at it in steps. And my first step is self-compassion. Can it be cultivated as a competence? Maybe as a ritual. So, and then the next step, okay, what happens when we do combine it with other aspects? So I'm just curious about what your perspective is on such research, and to keep it pure, or to include things like Buddhism or yoga or
So the point is, the scale was developed as an alternative to the daily spiritual experience scale. Let's say it's not the daily hallelujah scale. It means I require believing God. So in Germany, we have so many people who don't care about God, but they have an experience that something is touching them. That was the reason why I said, okay, we need to focus on experiences which can be perceived by all people, even those who say, I'm neither religious nor spiritual. So we have tested it. This scale is applicable to them, and several of them have this similar experiences. Of course, there are significant differences in the grading, but nevertheless, they experience it. So the idea was, next, could these experiences be trained or sensitized to perceive it, to stop? And thus, we don't need religious or non-religious backgrounds, even if they are informed, let's say, by the principles of mindfulness, deriving from Vipassana tradition.
Yeah, I was also maybe the first slide you showed about the pause. I'm curious, and I want to make a picture of it because that's also, of course, where mindfulness or self-compassion trainings.
Yes.
It's all about the pause to create space.
Yes, of
to
course.
be able to perceive.
In fact, it is informed by the Buddhist principles of mindfulness.
Yeah.
Even when we today would say mindfulness is applicable to all people, the background is clearly rooted in the Vipassana tradition. And that was the reason to say, let's skip out all these religious issues to make it applicable to people who don't believe in all this stuff.
Yeah,
But it's better if you have the background. This is the point.